So knock it out over there. Well, to get a room for you guys.
Bye, Nanny. Take care of my daughter.
There we go.
Is Tom not?
Don't worry, you're in good hands.
I'm sure.
Oh, that's pretty good, whatever liaison.
Jody, he knows you're
As I
supposed
said,
to
Sharon and the liaison are not here, but, you know, Kathy is the vice chair, ready to go.
Okay. This is the meeting of the Roadway Equestrian Trail Greenway Advisory Committee for Loxahatchee Groves. We are now meeting. Could we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Vice Chair Stredlow,
Here.
Committee Member Lauda,
Here?
Committee Member Harris,
Here.
Committee Member Siciliano.
Here.
Let the record show that Chairman Nina Corning is absent.
As well as Tom Golson and the liaison.
Okay. Let me catch up. Okay, approval of the agenda. I do not like the agenda and don't want to consider some things on the agenda. Would we like to discuss this?
That's appropriate.
Okay.
Coming the agenda, so.
Yeah.
I think for us to be discussing the MREG at this point is really just so much busy work. It's an outdated document. There's nothing representative of anything that's coming out to change that. I see no point in discussing it.
Gee, well, just, I think you're gonna need to take a motion if you wanna do that, because I believe at your last meeting, the committee indicated that we would discuss it at this meeting. So, that's why it's there, it's not because we just decided to throw it on.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm saying, okay, that's it, and because I'm chairing, I can't make a motion.
You must have done that after I left.
Well, let me make a suggestion too, because it's a good point you raised. One of the things that I was gonna indicate is, we brought some of the books tonight. I don't think all of you have had a chance to really look at it in any great extent.
No,
anyway.
there's this other problem going on.
I understand. So, you know, obviously, I don't know if the quality of the discussion is gonna be there anyway, as it relates to it. So what you might wanna do is, keep it on the agenda, but defer it to next meeting. And you can decide at the next meeting, or you wanna discuss it.
How about we,
Unless you all feel like you wanna make that, you wanna undo what you did at the last meeting, when you mentioned.
I'll make a motion to move the MREG discussion to next month's meeting, so that everyone's properly prepared to it for it.
Well, we don't know, we have to talk about that, that's also, falls with
Well, I second the motion.
sure, yeah.
So we're tabling it
Well, yeah.
or deferring?
We're
You
Because
got a
it was-
motion in the second, now you get a call for
Okay.
yeas and nays.
probably deferring to the next month's meeting.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to defer what would be under new business 5A to our next meeting. All those in favor?
Sure.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Four zip.
Is
Now,
the rest of the agenda okay, Alice?
Oh, no, I'm just-
I'm fine with this.
Okay, I'll make a
Come
motion.
on.
Make a
Hold
motion
the
to
swallow.
approve, and then you can move forward.
Yeah, I'll make a motion
You
to
gotta
approve
see
the
it.
agenda with the change that's been made.
I second it.
Okay, to vote to accept the agenda, all those in favor say aye.
All right.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, so we are up to item B under new business. Keith's presentation for the controlled crossings.
Well,
Wait,
excuse me,
Herb?
we're out of, we did the approval, we have to approve the minutes.
Yeah, you got me.
and
Need to jump.
Read all this minutia.
What do you?
You skipped over the minutes. That's
We have to, we have to have a
Oh, I'm
motion to
sorry,
approve
I'm
the
sorry, okay.
minutes, is making an hour out of minutes.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes of our September 25th?
I'll make a motion to move, to approve the minutes.
I second the motion.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor to accept the minutes from September 25th. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Fine.
Opposed? Motion so carries. Now you're up.
Oh, okay. At the October 1st town council meeting, I made a suggestion to town council to consider the placement of controlled crossings at the intersections of Okeechobee Boulevard, B and F roads. And I wish to share some thoughts on that for your consideration. Request any questions you have held to it afterwards, and then we'll discuss what I brought up in this agenda item. First item is I'd like to ask you to remember the following names. Dan Weisberg. It is my understanding that he will dictate the layout and the future of the town of Waxahachie Grove's equestrian trail system. Both the MREG and the town comps plan offers the layout of the town's proposed equestrian trail system, with the east-west trails at North Road and Connecting Canal, and north-south trails at each of the 6 letter roads. We have a pivotal point of having a connected loop trail system. And that pivotal point is the crossing of Okeechobee Boulevard. Our comp plan 2.3.9 states the town shall use landscaping and signs to visually identify crossings and trail access points. Safe and controlled crossings shall be provided. Now, the rationale of this question, in my opinion, is not to approve or recommend a particular crossing system, but to consider and recommend the town council the placement of such a system in key equestrian trail roadway intersections. I prepared a conceptual package that was included in your agenda, which features crossing equipment from the same manufacturer that was used by the village of Wellington for their equestrian crossings. Their systems were both electrical and solar powered at different locations. One location in Saddle Trails, on one side of the road, it's solar powered, and on the other side, some 20 feet away, it's electrical powered due to availability of electricity. Now, in the package, I showed 2 systems by a particular manufacturer. One was called a Hawk system, and that is an FDOT approved system, and is approved for any FDOT maintained road. It is a solar powered system. The second system by the same manufacturer is known as an RRFP system, which is also solar powered. It is currently being tested by the state of Florida Department of Transportation for approval. And it is currently being used in Lake County and Marion County on county maintained roads. In Marco Island, Florida, they also use a similar system in flashing applications at various stop signs, yield signs, pedestrian crossways. So it's a well-known manufacturer. Again, our discussion is not to determine a system to use, but other than to use it for dollar considerations and conversation discussions so that we can make a proper recommendation to town council.
A similar situation, both of them less.
Excuse me, you need to identify yourself.
You need to open up to the public too.
Yeah,
I don't know if you're-
yeah, no, that doesn't.
Are you?
I'd like to finish.
Oh, okay.
I think there's an urgency to proceed with installing control crossings in Okeechobee. Not only it's going to require the approval of town council, but it's going to require the approval of Dan Weisberg, the name I mentioned before. And he is the director of the traffic division of Palm Beach County. And his division's mission is to provide safe and efficient movement of traffic on roads under the jurisdiction of the county, to apply good engineering practices in design and installing signalization, pavement markings, and signaling. Mr. Weisberg and his division will determine whether or not the RFP system could be used on a county-maintained Okeechobee, or he may require us, if we choose the Hawk system as our system, as it is DOT approved. Now, I think the urgency to make the application to the county is because currently Okeechobee's 2 lanes. Once it's 4 lanes, it's going to be a challenge to get approval from them. And failure to get approval for crossings either on the 2-lane or the 4-lane is going to radically change our concept of our equestrian trail system. There will not be a loop if we cannot get across Okeechobee. A few more items. To give you an idea, the example of a layout of a control crossing is basically a line crossing of 25 feet in width with posts mounted so many feet on both sides of the edge of the pavement to carry signage and the lighting apparatus. Both these systems that I have mentioned in the conceptual study offers a separate pole with a activator button that will be placed in 2 locations, at pedestrian level and at equestrian level. In addition to these posts and signage, 100 feet in either direction from this crossing will be a signal, a hill sign to warn people of the systems and the crossing location. Both MRAE and the comp plan call for the crossings of Okeechobee and B&F roads. We could increase that besides an equine crossing to make it also a pedestrian crossing and a bicycle crossing. It can serve the town in 3 different formats to assist us getting across Okeechobee. Now, preliminary estimates for these 2 locations for the Hawk system, which is the more expensive system that DOT approved, is approximately $60,000.
That includes both places? Or
That's for, yeah, $30,000 per location. Our equestrian trail budget for 2014 is $80,000 with $30,000 already earmarked, too much computer work. Earmarked for the 6 court improvements. Now, in as much as the equipment is considered traffic control devices, I'd like for you to consider to recommend the town council that a minimum of 50% of the cost in funding these crossings would be from the roadway budget. And the remaining funds required to pay for these come from the equestrian trail budget and elsewhere. The control crossings will assist in discouraging cut-through traffic. And in some conversations, I've also been given somewhat of a controversial consideration. With no disrespect to town council's consideration of putting a traffic road on D Road in Okeechobee with a budget of some $250,000. The Hawk system, the more expensive system, can be put at all 6 letter roads for a cost of $180,000, which would save some $70,000. And those 6 locations may assist in deterring cut-through traffic where a traffic signal will not be required. Now, keep in mind, Mr. Weisberg and Palm Beach County's traffic division can decide on the Hawk or the FD or whatever system the town's engineer offers for its application. The RFD is some 45% reduction in cost, so it's a nice system and it's relatively inexpensive. And putting crossings, each of the 6 letter roads might be a viable option, because presently the MREG does not call for an Okeechobee equestrian trail. And by having the 6 crossings, we would be able to go safely across Okeechobee and enjoy either the southern or northern sections of the trail. Let's see, a couple more items. A traffic light for a red, yellow, and green traffic light uses approximately $550 of electricity annually. So if we put a traffic light at D Road in Okeechobee, there's going to be a minimum of 4 lights. We're going to spend close to $2,200 on a year on just electricity to run that unit. These systems that I've shared with you in the conceptual study are solar powered, so there's a savings there. Now, the estimates in the study were from a controlled crossing material vendor, and also numbers that I had made up as I am an actively licensed state certified general contractor. And these numbers were based on the conceptual scope of work as indicated in the study. Lastly, I respectfully submit, after due discussion by the committee and consideration of public comment, a motion, whereas the Roadway Equestrian Trail Greenway Advisory Committee makes recommendation to Town Council to consider and approve the placement of controlled crossings with equestrian, pedestrian, bicycle signage at the intersections of Okeechobee Boulevard D and F roads, with a minimum of 50% of the cost be funded from the town's roadway budget and the remaining funds from the trail budget, county participation if any, and any grants that we can get. And I open this up for discussion.
Oh, here.
I passed it out.
Okay.
There you go, go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
Just-
She's recording the,
Just let me apologize for being late, but that's not.
Okay.
I spoke with him also, he's also not here, and doesn't know what he's going to do.
Well, we'll make
He tried to call.
The chair came in at about 7:20.
okay. Excellent job, Keith. I agree with almost everything except the removal of the light at D Road, because the pedestrian and bicycle crossings are intermittent. We need to generate some, what George Webb would call platoon traffic, and that's the way to do it.
And George Webb is the county engineer
Yeah.
with Tanya McConnell and Steve Carrier as assistants.
Anyway, we need at least that one light, because sort of D is the center there. B and F, now on splitting, I was the chair of the interlocal committee on the Royal Palm Beach Pines natural area. Got the bridge put in for equestrians at the canal, and was active in getting the trail done. I'll have to go back and look at some notes if I can find them. But at that time, I was of the feeling that the county was going to provide crossing at F, a safe crossing at F, to make that trail from the Royal Palm Beach Pines natural area to here usable.
Great.
So I'll get a hold of Jess and Santa Maria and see if we can talk them into putting that bill as a overdue commitment. But then absolutely B and F is a starter for the loop set. Let's see, yeah, that gets you close enough to, you know, we can get Red Barn and put in some kitchen posts. Other than, I'd like to see the light, our recommendation, not mention getting rid of the light at D, and then see what we can carry forward, but definitely go ahead with your motion as made, and then future, find out what other crossings, one at a time, fit best with the overall trail system. But yeah, when I look at, you know, the loops, the two loops, I go, well, that's nice, we have North Loxahatchee roads and South Loxahatchee roads, so we can have a civil war.
That'd be the situation if we can't not get approvals, and I think there's an urgency because, once it goes 4 lanes.
Oh, yeah.
It's not going to.
No, yeah, that's a very, very good point, fully agree.
Have any of you read the Emmerich through?
No, it's been the same with.
Prior to you coming in, Madam Chair, the committee decided to defer the inward discussion to the next meeting.
Okay. The reason was,
Nobody had a chance to,
review
they've
it.
been busy doing other stuff.
okay, well, there's a point that I'd like to point out, since you have it on page 90 of 108. The Florida Green Book standards apparently are that you need to install asphalt or OJEM, where you will have these intersections with basically the lights, the intersection controls. B Road has voted, North B Road has voted the OJEM, unless you force it down their throat.
Where, does it say how far back from Oakland? Because there is an apron.
I'm just pointing this out.
These are installed at 8 feet and come off off of the edge of the pavement. And that would be something that the traffic engineer developing the application to send to Palm Beach County would determine. I think right now we're looking more at concepts and not exact specifications.
Right, and with that concept, I don't know that we need to necessarily determine at which intersection either. Do we?
If you go to Palm Beach County Traffic Division and say you want a traffic signal, the first question is where?
Well, F is a given, I think.
I don't know if you're going to get D and then F, they're very close.
B and F.
B and F.
B and
You
F.
said you wanted D as well.
No, with the light left in it, the traffic light,
So
it's separate.
what I don't know is if you're going to be able to get intersection controls from a distance, you may know that answer, but I remember quite well that there was an issue with the proximity of the flashing light for Folsom, and the flashing light for the school, that was too close. Now, I don't know whether there's, because now you're talking D, then is E, and then there's F. Maybe that is enough distance, I don't know.
Now, these systems that I did have in conceptual study are wireless systems, and they can monitor, they can set the signal distance, so they can set this, F road, we'll have 2 poles 25 feet apart. There's 30 feet apart on either side of the road. They will signal to each other with a wireless situation. They can, the manufacturer can set the equipment so the signal will not go pretty much past that distance. The one at B Road would be an independent pair of lights with its own wireless communication system as well.
I think that was an orange to her afterwards.
Yeah, that was
right.
what, yeah.
Okay, again, I apologize, I did not see that.
It's all right,
Been
I've
there.
been there, done that.
And probably do it again.
But there, and actually I was looking for, in the MREG also, you have the what is it called, something about the standards for lights with speed limits above 40. So there, and I don't know, I looked for it online today, all over the place. I went through this thing.
So we drop
This is where
Good idea.
it.
Say drive the speed limit.
yeah, well, I absolutely agree. And,
For people that aren't paying
So
attention,
that's
that
it.
don't have foresight,
right, and,
maybe it might be better to slow them down. a
and
little
I mean,
bit
it's
before they
actually,
use it.
if we're tabling it's not tabling, it's postponing. Deferring, deferring until to a specific date. There we go. So, this, do you remember that you have it
Yes.
still? You definitely do not have it. I'll give you one, even though it should already be in the public record. this was actually what I had, you have one, but you don't have it anymore. Unfortunately, I didn't, I accidentally didn't make enough color copies of it. You have this probably anyhow, because this is how I thought we had Roberts back then. That's what we created this for back then. And this has to do with speed limits and how we do design and not using, you know, the growth rates. I mean, I went through all the growth rates. I actually looked at all the data that we've had now for the last 4 years, you know, because they're talking about the growth rates here, and I went and I wrote them down, what's really happened, and compared them. So, you know, to see how we can really handle Okeechobee as a whole, and I don't disagree that we need some way to cross the horses, especially if we're going to end up having more traffic. I mean, I'd love to see Okeechobee get off that protected thoroughfare, the extension of the thoroughfare now, just like we took off E Road 140. I'd love to take it off.
And 40th.
Whether it's possible or not.
One thing on this chart here, your little thing here with the number of vehicles and the thing, this is where your buddy, George Webb, doesn't look at this. I asked him about lowering the speed limit once when I was the president of the Landowners Association. And he says, well, he says, the way we have to do that is we'll set out several of those cables and we'll collect the average speed. And that's pretty much, you know, the traffic is going to set its own speed, and we'll adjust it. He says, you probably don't want me to do that because it's going to go up. That's how he does it, or did it.
Whether it's right or wrong.
Right.
Amy, can I ask you, we covered what you were saying about B Road. B Road turned down the OJM.
B Road voted on the OJM not too long ago, and it was a bitter fight, and Dirt won.
So how does that affect the?
Well, according to what the MREG says, that in order to receive these lights, and that was the page of this page.
But that's reference to a traffic signal control box.
That's reference to an intersection control. I'm just using their vocabulary.
Can I say something?
Sure, go ahead, I'm sorry.
In the beginning
Can you
of,
tell who you are?
oh, Phyllis Manelia, 359 West D Road. In the beginning of Keith's
Opening.
presentation, okay. The thing here is, Nina, is this is urgent before the road goes 4-lane. He wants to get this in, and Mr. Louder said there was already
Bill,
approval for the F-road prior with county. So I think, you know, this is a positive thing to go forward.
We just have to, all I'm saying is we have to think of really whether that still stands, the F and the B road, just because that's what it is.
Right. I don't think we have to decide that.
No.
Right.
No, we're working on concept. The traffic engineer has to satisfy Palm Beach County Traffic Code to get the approval. Once they get, you know, when an architect gets a customer, wants to build them a bond and gives them an idea of what they want, he then sets down an initial code and budget and develops a scope of work. That's what I'm asking for the town to at least go develop a scope of work and make an application. Now, there might be particulars that come out in the development of that application that we might have to set and take a second look at. But it needs to start.
I'm sorry, I'm new. Just a quick question. A Road's left out of the mix because it's off the loop of the trails?
No, we were talking about all letter roads.
oh,
All
yeah,
letter
eventually,
roads, okay.
Yeah.
eventually, but we gotta start
Because it's just a
somewhere.
little, okay. I
B and
understand.
F is sort of the,
More,
I put in B and F because it's in comp plan, it's in MREG,
Okay.
and it's been a target for traffic lights, for roundabouts, and everything else. So those are two main north-south
North-south
town
connectors.
roads.
okay.
one thing on B, especially with the development of Minto coming up, is years ago, take a look at Southern Boulevard, it's got this S years ago during the 1989 Midland study, somebody laid a ruler down and went, oh, look at that, B would link right up with the eastern part of Seminole Pratt Squiggle. That's how E Road 140th got on there, was, oh, look,
Yeah.
it lines up.
Right, and you take 40th, you can almost line it up in Roebuck.
Yeah, that's how it got on over to Royal Pond.
To make it
With
really
all the
creepy.
activity and future development around us, we've got to protect our town, and Palm Beach County is going to be pushing heavy dirt. to
Everybody
make that
going
4 lane.
tomorrow?
So we need to start and shoot, let's use the electric
That's a good point.
trail. Well, we can do that too. Just as long as we make sure we don't hit the cows, just hit the poles.
That's true.
Any other comments?
I'll go ahead and finish. Or, oh no, let's, we want to do public before a motion?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, then I'll go ahead.
Manny, you want to say something?
I just had a question about the difference. Keith was real right about saying, go ahead with the particular approved crossing instead of trying to wait for the one that might go through.
Right, one of them is approved by
Right.
State Department of Transportation.
Exactly.
The other one's being tested by the State Department of Transportation, but it's used on county roads in Marion County and Lake County for now 2 years. And in the flasher applications, it's used all over Marco Island for stop signs, yield signs.
Those are the RFBs?
No, just a simple flashing. You can get them with just flashing lights, or you can get them with the rapid fire pedestrian markers. And with that, then you could have a solid red light. If you don't have that, or the system can give a warning signal before it goes to red, you can only use flash.
And the cost analysis you did was the 60,000 on the RFPs?
The 60,000 was for the Hawk system, for the pair of intersections. The RRFB was some $30,000 or $15,000 per intersection.
Okay.
Oh,
Hold on one second.
Please, you have to identify yourself.
Sorry. Jesse Siciliano, 5030 B Road.
really?
And,
Public
Let
comments.
her just get that done.
Oh.
Just the one road or whatever. Miss Siciliano,
Yep.
what is your address?
1530 B Road.
Question.
Just introduce yourself first, please. Introduce yourself first.
I shall. I'm Tom Siciliano of 1530 B Road. We're taking over this meeting.
Hey, well, I'm glad I got enough Italian.
Hey, paisan.
Okay, bye, Mr. Queen.
And this is procedural as opposed to conceptual. Does the funding obligation by the various agencies, is that a one-time funding adventure, or is that a continuing and sustaining funding that will be given to Loxahatchee from whatever those two sources are? Keith?
Where's the source?
There's $80,000 allocated in CLB programs. The actual projects are not identified at this time with the exception of 6-Port.
Right.
Correct, Sixport North is incorporated in the extension thereof. And other than that.
The extension thereof of what?
Meaning the Sixport stops short of Sea Road.
Right, I understand. 30,000
Right.
was what the council allocated as part of.
I think, on yours on the funding was what, I believe what Keith had brought up was to try and get half from the retake committee's budget and have the council kick in from the road half. This is for the initial purchase. Now, ongoing expense for repairs and electricity or whatever else,
Operating expense.
operating expense would probably have to come out of the early, have to be figured in.
I have mixed feelings when it is, when we're dealing with Okeechobee. I feel that at that point, really our our budget shouldn't be supporting quite as much. I mean, I can see where maybe your idea about buying North Road would maybe support more of that. But at that point, I think it has some other, Okeechobee, it's
But there again, the cost isn't something that we need to address. What we want to address is the actual crossing and recommending to the council that they move on this.
Yeah,
And
time's not waiting on
in my motion, I placed the funding concept as they are traffic control devices, which are normally attached to a roadway project versus an equestrian trail project. The fact that it's going to also offer pedestrian as well as help our significant bicycle traffic, again, monies should be appropriated to some percentage out of the roadway. The balance, of course, will come out of, and this is just recommendation of town council to consider. We can't tell them what to do, and we know that we can't spend the money. They need to approve the expenditures, but they need a recommendation and the concept to go along with the idea of these devices that would benefit the equestrian trails, because right now we don't have, if we have to go with the higher system, in fact, we earmarked $30,000 for 6 courts. We would not be able to do one intersection in 2014, and we have to wait to 2015 for the second system. So an urgency to keep the town, Palm Beach County from making this a 4-lane superhighway out of here, is to get those things up, and then split. And the town would benefit by having them there, and I would think the town would be considered the sharing of funds from the various budgets.
Well, Madam Chair, I think what you're looking at doing is, based upon this concept, I think number one, as a committee, you probably need to decide whether you want to make that recommendation to council on the concept, whether you decide. Always on cost, there's a number of elements. It's cost out a lot for you to consider as part of your recommendation. You correctly identified that there's $80,000 in CIP allocated for travel, 30 of which loosely earmarked for support. However, in moving forward with this, obviously you would need to, council would need to determine that the timing is appropriate, that they want to move forward, that they would want to have their traffic consultant, which now is Simmons and White, move forward, because we currently have engaged them to already start the cost study on traffic signal that showed, so that's currently underway. But, so
Wire's
there are,
dead?
I'm sorry?
Wire's dead.
Well, that's
all.
open, wire, Mastron, they're studying it all to see what the cost and see what's possible. So, and then Keith raised another element in that, but don't take it all from the trail budget, but ask for council to allocate some monies out of projects on road systems. So there's a lot there, I think you have to take the whole thing and decide collectively what you want to make a recommendation on. If you want to make a recommendation tonight, I suppose that we could probably have it ready for their meeting on the 5th. There's a lot there, but, and then they would have to, take a look at this. I would recommend that probably, I can bring it forward, but I think probably one of the committee members or the chair would want to come and also make the pitch to council. That would probably be appropriate.
Maybe Keith will want to make that pitch since it's his idea and he knows it well enough.
Well, you guys will decide that tonight. I'm just trying to lay out all the things that
Maybe we
you have to look at if you're gonna move this forward. And there are some policies in the plan that you pointed to, so you're doing your homework in terms of, trying to justify the basis of it. One thing I will say though, just in my experience, I don't know if the pedestrian signal is going up is necessarily going to deter Palm Beach County. If Palm Beach County wants to make that 4 lanes because of whatever conditions ultimately Are forthcoming in the future, they'll make it 4 lanes.
Will they respect existing pedestrian crossings and reproduce them?
You might have a hard
That's
time
a
getting
good
the approval to
point.
begin with. I mean,
Yeah.
if, the
It's
timing
not-
is very interesting.
So the funding for that though is not even in 20, it's not in the 5.
My understanding was, yeah, it was in the 2025 plan,
Yeah.
transportation plan, and it is toward the latter part of that plan.
Yeah.
But you also have activities going on now, as you're all well aware,
Mm-hmm.
They could change
between Highland Dunes and Minto West, where there's a possibility that could end up getting accelerated, so. Exactly.
No, I still have some mixed feelings. On one hand, I think it's very important to establish that we have equestrian crossings, that they're not just the occasional horse that you see or do not see, but that everyone is aware of the fact that they're actually crossing, because they are. And that's the big bonus with this. On the other side, 80,000 isn't a tremendous amount of money that we have in the first place. If there are something that can be taken from other projects or even from the general fund, because for recreational purposes, I can show you what other towns have taken out of that general fund, and even we have, where there may be something that can be allocated towards that because there's a general interest in keeping Okeechobee calm. And if they view that as a way of getting it in that direction, whether that's just one of many, then maybe we have something.
I just didn't want a false perception out there that that was what I meant, to
Right.
keep it to.
Absolutely.
No,
It will not.
no.
But
We don't
the
know.
fact is that when we go 4-lane, we've talked about it, when we go 4-lane, we actually need trails on both sides, because how do you get to those intersections where you're going to cross? We've given away our railroad easements or whatever.
The
they're
Bensel Trail.
called. Yeah. So, I mean, are we going to, purchase land from people to find little ways of cutting through from one road to another, from one corner to another? How do we connect everything? We've always said that our east-west connections were the most difficult.
When and if it ever comes to that time where it's 4 lane, then we just have to bring enough pressure that the county supplies those. Right now, we have to show that on the sidewalk side, which took a little doing as well, that we have horses using that side. So we need, do we have, I'm gonna say 1 or 2, but I don't travel over
I mean, I've ridden along, as you know, and I've pony run and rode along Okeechobee on the south side of Okeechobee. And, I mean, you take one very experienced horse, and then it doesn't matter quite so much if your other horse says experience. You ride the experienced one, the other one says, via that. But everybody has that. luxury.
Oh,
But,
I came up on a rider on Collecting Canal one day, looked like he was doing perfect, he pulled over, as I came up to pass him at about 7 miles an hour, I thought this guy was in some show ring or something. The horse turned sideways and started doing a bunch of, I just stopped and I went, don't kick my truck. And the guy was sitting there, didn't know,
Yeah, but
didn't
that's
handle
the
it.
difference of us living out here and being familiar with when to stop and when to go. You get people on Okeechobee that don't know that that they're coming up to an equitation area and they're doing 80 miles an hour and they're beeping their horn at people thinking that was appropriate. Yeah. If you
We
get
still
people
need to
that
have it for
don't
the
know.
tape. We need to have it for the record. That's all.
Okay, Helen Alvarez, 36360.
I'd like
That's
to
the only
comment.
thing with that.
Either
In the future, if we can have common cards here, just so, because, and I understand, I mean, just to have this said, and I appreciate all the input, but in the future, if we can do this a little bit organized, this room leads itself to a little bit of chaos, because we're all sitting together, it feels like we're all sitting around the same table. Okay, but Otherwise, staff is going to get on me and say I'm not
You know-
keeping enough order.
I'm first.
Oh, sorry.
Yes,
Yeah, I want
you are first.
to comment on the funding situation. Is Okeechobee Road a state road or is it a county road?
County.
It's a county.
It's a county road, okay. And if they have their drawings, I know when I came out here in the town in the early 80s, they already had it closed 4-lane already. And they had the fundings allocated for it then. And what needs to be done, I think if you use your money more wisely to use it as research money instead of trying to, I mean, you know, you're gonna put some in it, but I believe that the county should accommodate you mostly on your funding because they're the ones wanting the 4-lane to progress their revenue from all the outlying communities like Minto and the expansion of Okeechobee Road to the west.
Well,
So-
what I just
A lot of
provided
people
tonight
fighting that.
has to do with Okeechobee Road and an analysis that, was funded by someone other than Los Angeles Wells. So, it's a benefit at times, but it's just finding some other ways of doing things that
Well, I think we can go forward with his recommendation without getting to the minutia of funding.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, the issue is, do we want to recommend
Yes.
this to the board?
Right.
Yeah,
That's it.
Yeah.
So,
And then, you know,
We'll
if
make
you
a
offer
motion.
any suggestions for
Somebody.
funding or whatever, I'll make a motion that we recommend to the board that they, with us, explore getting equestrian crossings at B and F Road and explore finding out if the F Road crossing is part of the old trail system that they put in, started when Palm Beach Pines Natural Area was established. Because they funded the bridge at F. We didn't fund it.
You were gonna get that information, right?
Yeah.
So that doesn't need to be in the motion.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, well, anyway, let me amend the motion to, we recommend that the town council pursue equestrian trail crossings at B and F Road, working with the Retag committee, and work out all possible funding routes to the best of, for the benefit of the town.
I believe I have a motion already on the
Oh, okay. Oh, you know, you make one.
floor. And it was
Okay.
seconded by Mr. Wood.
Can you repeat that motion for me, please?
The
Okay.
motion,
Well, hang on, Pearl, did you have a?
Proceed with it, didn't you?
No, it's
Didn't you say?
Guys, please.
She's checking.
Okay.
I don't remember
I didn't
making the
remember,
motion.
I didn't remember you making the motion, I remember the talk.
I can share it with you real quick. Verbatim.
Okay.
She has it as well as I gave her a copy. I respectfully submit after the discussion by the committee and consideration of public comment, any motion, whereas roadway, equestrian trail, greenway advisory committee makes recommendation to town council to consider and approve the placement of controlled crossings with equestrian, pedestrian, and bicycle signage at the intersections of Okeechobee Boulevard and B and F roads with a minimum of 50% of the cost refunded from the town's roadway budget and the remaining funds from the trails budget, county participation, if any, and grants.
Oh, okay.
That was a wonderful motion. I don't
Yeah,
remember
okay,
saying
no,
that.
no, okay.
Yeah, you did.
At the end of
Wow.
the.
That was
Yeah.
It's in print right there.
Okay, yeah, I'll second it.
Could I make a recommendation?
Sure.
That you not identify what, from what sources the town council, you know, where you say the
Yeah,
town's roadway
funding.
budget, because to be honest, the town council has budgeted all of their roadway money that they're receiving this year, the road projects, and they have taken all the reserves from the roadway from the capital improvements project.
Yeah.
So it would be better just not to identify a fund and they, you know, from any source available.
I respect that. I was just trying to protect what monies are available in the year 2014 of the question of the trail budget.
Oh, okay. But when
The
you
trail
s-
budget would not cover the work in the motion if the county requires the more expensive system as suggested in the conceptual.
Don't just
plan.
drop
I agree, but
funding from
I
it.
think,
Just drop
Mr.
funding.
Straylaw kind of indicated it and said it properly, and I agree with Pearl. There's a lot of details in that motion, that's a very good
Yeah.
motion, but you're also kind of not giving council some wiggle room to
Yeah.
discuss it. But the concept is what you want,
Yeah.
I mean, you all can come, we'll put a report together, all the details could be discussed when it's brought before council, but the,
Then to generalize the motion, may I make a amendment to it or revision to it?
Yeah, I'll withdraw my second. You're free now.
State everything right up to the funding.
Yeah,
Take the funding portion out of it.
that'll work,
You
right?
can include the funding, you just earmark the roadway, and I worry if you say that, they'll say, well, we don't have
Pursue
any
all-
money.
I appreciate that
I
Pursue all
just wanted to be
consideration,
honest
yes.
with you, because they have.
Yeah, because we might just kick ourselves out of the box before we get on the box.
They could
They,
find
they,
money
they,
in
That's a
other
possible.
places.
they could go, oh, sorry, we don't have money available to 2015, we'll table this for you.
And honestly, that would be one of my concerns to
Mhm.
the center.
Okay, I'm in my motion to do what Pearl said.
you re-second your motion?
I'll re-second my motion after withdrawing. Yeah, I'll re-second the
You
motion.
re-second your second, that's what it is.
Re-second,
You
is
re-second
that
the
forcing it?
Yes.
Can I ask a
Good
question
question.
in reference, can we just say to consider instead of and approve? I mean, it's,
Don't you think we should say, like, get on with something?
Yes, yeah, let's do it. Let's ask them the SOGTP, figure it out,
Commercial equine operations
something, or get off the pot.
are a, as of right, under state statute, activity. We're now in our 202nd day going through the process, and I understand the process now. I'm not trying to point fingers or speak negatively. But by suggesting to approve it, it's going along with the urgency that we need to get in there before Palm Beach County does something with it.
Let me just suggest, if you're worried about the word, maybe something replace approve with implement. Something like that, that's what you're liking, or if you're concerned with how approve is too harsh, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
Is that implement is
I like that
implemented?
better.
May we further amend it to change the word approve to implement?
And always eschew sesquipedalianism. Always eschew sesquipedalianism. You know what that means?
Issue of the station.
Don't use big words.
We were still in the citrus seven
No, never.
Might be a good idea.
I wouldn't hurt her.
Phyllis Manelia, 359 West Depot. There were some trails across Okeechobee. I live right on, well, I thought I was at, behind the district. And there were some neat places to ride on the other side of Okeechobee. And I think as a resident, I would really like to see us go. Let's just go. Let them tell us no, and then we'll just hit them harder. So let them tell us no, and let them tell us why, and then we'll fix it, and we'll keep going forward. But no, I don't understand your hesitation, and I think if you saw the beginning, if you were here for the beginning of his demonstration and discussion, I think he hit it right on the head, is we need to move forward with this. The roads, things are changing, and we
My
need to
hesitation-
get in there now.
My hesitation has a little bit to do with location.
Well-
And it has, let me finish. And it has to do most of all with making sure, basically I would like to see funding that is not just for the greenways. This, to me, this is in an area of mixed use.
Well,
Yeah,
Mr.
that's what it
Louder already found 30 grand from the county.
That's what, well, maybe.
Maybe, but
Well,
there
no,
you go.
He addresses mixed use in there. That's
Are
why
you
we
talking
dropped
about the-
funding.
What do you,
That's why we dropped that's why we dropped funding.
yeah, okay. I'm just telling you, that's my little
Well,
bit of.
I-
He already made the pitch
I as a
for
rep-
pedestrian, equestrian, and bicycles, the funding coming from traffic.
What, we have a motion, we have a
Yeah,
second?
yeah.
All in favor, are we ready for that?
Oh, yeah. please.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion passes 5-0.
Well done. We're going some.
Don't
Is it
find
motion
me
to
with
adjourn
like
time yet?
nickel and dimes left to go bridges, please.
Hang on, you're not done yet now. Okay, so then what I'll do is I'll put together an agenda item for the November 5th meeting. Obviously, you want November 5th,
Yeah.
right? All right, I'll put it together, but it's going to be, I'll use my judgment as to how much details I cram in. I'll use Keith's report and some of the information he gave Carla. But the question is, I would recommend that you decide tonight, one of you, whether it's the chair or whether it's delegated to Keith, one of you should go to the meeting on the 5th and in support of the staff, because it's really your initiative. Be ready to explain to town council what you're doing.
Well, who wants to make a motion of who gets to go?
I'd like to make a motion that Keith go on November 5th and represent our committee as far as,
In reference to.
yeah, in reference to crossings, controlled crossings. Is that good with that?
May I make a
I'll withdraw my second.
amendment to that motion? Will the other committee members come and hold my hand?
It's gonna be a long one. I'll be in San Diego.
As long as we
that
stay in
day.
the sunshine.
But let me add, since we do have a second though, on that, and relative to Keith's question, it is important that whoever one of you decide to take this on to the committee is agreeing that you are speaking.
Yes,
The committee as a whole.
yeah.
And I trust that, I think in reference to my views of seeing that our budget for the next year is not entirely used up, I think he understands that. So I feel confident that he's not
No,
going to leave me with the goals.
I learned as a developer to use other people's money. Meaning, let's don't use the equestrian trail money unless we absolutely have to, but there are ways to get this funded by town funds, possibly some assistance from the county. We can go after grants for it. We can get, we can hit some of our more well-to-do citizens for honorariums or donations,
Cannabis
whatever
sales.
we can do.
My feeling on this is that they will have some hesitation because of the current condition of control over the greenways. However, if you reiterate the timing factor of creating crossings now that the county has awareness of, then maybe you can overcome that.
I will share with you the October 1st town council meeting. I got the comments too, and I even gave you a copy of my comments. There was no response from town council, but during the rest of the course of the meeting, other topics, we had more than one different town councilman refer to this idea as a good idea. So we already, I know of 2, possibly 3 councilmen that are interested in this. And if you look at the videotape of that meeting, all of the town councilmen stopped what they were doing, put their papers down and listened, which was a nice feeling. It showed that they were interested in this concept. So I think we'll have some support right off the bat.
I'm feeling a little, I wish we had gone through the MREG at the same time, because there are other things that in order for this to work as a traffic calming device, I think you need to find other things that go in unison with that.
Well, I don't think we can
That
sell
I
this as a
don't know.
traffic calming device, that's not the point.
Well,
It's to get people safely from one side of the
And
road
we
to
do
the
have
other.
the benefit
period.
that this is a conceptual document itself,
Yeah.
and there are policies and comp plan that are now this committee is working with the district and the town to revise it, improve it, shorten it.
Are you
lengthen it,
including
whatever
D
we should.
road as well, D, F, and B? These crossings?
No, right now.
Right now, we're just looking at
B
two
and F.
roads, B and F.
Because I'm kind of thinking that you might have a better audience if you're including D, because D seems to be such a big point of contention at the meetings, having a light there already. And if you, I mean, I don't know, I'm new to this. I mean, I hear a lot of discussion about D road. And if D road is included somehow to include these this pedestrian, bicycle, equestrian crossing, it might make a better presentation. It might be heard with more open ears.
you have some
There
other.
again, you know, this isn't something we need to get down into the fine points
Yeah.
of. We
This is a
just need
conceptual
to get
idea.
the.
Yeah.
Well,
The
your
town
conception
council
is to
will-
leave out D?
No, when
It
they,
makes-
no, when they
No,
bring,
it's
when they,
no,
we
it's
can,
just,
we could go back and throw in that when they're talking about the traffic light.
Okay.
Say, hey, while you're doing that light, why not?
Revision.
Okay, there are a couple things. F Road has currently an existing trail. D Road, there may be some areas that really need some cleaning. So if they really say that one is too close to the other and they want to switch it over to D Road, they will do so. I think the message has been given by all of us enough that we want all of the letter roads used for equestrian trails, so they know if they support us, then they will have the trail there.
Either gotta cross or down Oki to a crossing some way.
Somehow
You
you
gotta
gotta
get
get across.
all the letters down.
I would have preferred not to specifically say that them pick the two locations where they want to have it across up, if we connect all the trails, and I wouldn't have been so specific, but.
I think F is an absolute given. F.
I think, you may have missed it, but I think Keith started his presentation by discussing the potential difficulties that you could have on the trail in terms of getting these things approved. And I think what you're gonna see is the central question for council is going to be, should we make the expenditure of funds at this time on this issue using our consultants to go and basically deal with the county to make this happen? I think that's ultimately what they're going to have to decide. And then merits of the concept itself, we'll have to carry it today. The budgetary, that's just the, once they decide on that, then they will look at the budgetary.
One thing on your signage that is probably still premature to consider, but it would come into a thought process, is the traffic lights on Southern that have flashing warnings farther away from the light have less accidents than just the traffic light. So if we get these lights here, even though you get signs down here, there ought to be,
You could put a flasher, you
Put a
could easily
flasher
put a
on that,
flasher on
yeah.
that signal ahead sign.
right,
That is a wireless communication to the system ahead as
Yeah.
well, so it
a
will.
little mini solar charger.
Yeah, it'll be dark until someone activates
Yes.
the crossing, the signal ahead sign with the flasher will come
You
on.
need
and
that flash ahead of it.
And that's a concept for the engineering
Yeah.
and the county and the higher ups to.
Did I have a first and a second on sending it?
yes.
Are we ready for a vote?
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Well, what do you want me to say, 4-1 or 5-0?
I think, though, I think he did ask the committee, will you support it?
Yes.
The vote was anonymous.
And I need someone to give me some speech lessons, because all I
Say
can do
there's
is
a
read it.
barbecue that
I
day.
can write it and I can read it, but I
Don't
can't.
just sit here and do this.
Let's get them sleep the night before you go.
Just do what Sophocles did, go down to the beach and.
Where are we
orate.
in
That
our
was your
agenda?
job.
Could you help me
We,
out?
yes,
for the
we are at 5C.
5C, and what have we done? We have approved the minutes?
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever get my email today? think you have
We're
an issue.
we're at the end, we're rescheduling the November meeting.
Okay, there was a minor thing in the minutes. There was a master that I told Jim about that is still in there. Just go find it real quick. And I also wonder whether everybody.
Well, you approved the minutes, so if you want to go back into it, you have to,
Yeah.
the seconder and the motioner have to agree, and then you vote.
Right. I mean, it's a thing that you can fix himself. And the other thing is just for clarity, because it looks like we voted on nothing. I kind of separated all the objectives. Put one paragraph in before and after you left, so you got your 5-0 and 4-0. But if you guys are okay with the way it is, just, that was really my issue, and that I tried to reach forward several times today. Had my troubles here.
Cancellation of the December 25th meeting?
Do you have to vote on that?
That wasn't a vote, that's just an announcement.
You can come here by yourself.
We're going to cancel.
I'm gonna look for it.
I think that would have passed.
Yeah. Well, yeah, let's move November 27th over to the 28th. Who's bringing the turkey?
So we are on, what did you just say, Caroline?
We're on the rescheduling of the November
I see.
27th meeting. I put a calendar at the back of the agenda for November.
That's what Thanksgiving Eve?
November 20th,
Is that Thanksgiving Eve?
or you could.
The 27th is the day before Thanksgiving.
Or the 4th. You could move it up.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
You can move it up
Thank
to the
God.
20th.
Guys, please, I can't hear her.
You could move the meeting up to the 20th of November, which would be the Wednesday, the Wednesday before your normally scheduled 27th. Or you could move it to the December, you could move it to the 4th of December, which would be the first Wednesday of the month. You're not gonna be having a meeting in December,
Right.
so.
I think that everybody needs to schedule.
I'm going through all the town council's
Right, right,
meetings
right.
and all the board
So
meetings.
can everybody
I'm just trying
check
to
their
make sure that you
schedules
don't
and
get
make sure that the 20th, I would assume would be the first choice? Yeah, the 20th does work for me. And so does the 4th, by the looks of it. So we have the MRAG now way ahead of time, so everybody does get to read it. I think that the 20th would be ample of time, because I do want to power ahead with a couple of things before we all fall asleep with too much Christmas goodies. 20th, okay, everybody? Do I have a motion? Do I need a motion?
Yeah.
No, I don't need a motion.
I motion that we set our next Retgac meeting at November 20th.
November 20th it is.
Retgac.
When do we add agriculture and environment?
That came up again, but another board.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
It comes up because you keep mentioning it. You still want to bring it up.
Did it not come up? You were there now, come on, be honest. I didn't say any more than that.
Well, there are a couple of things. We have a lot of things left over that we kind of sit, because, is it whether it's the signage, whether it's minimum design standards, when we have the Southern Greenway coming towards us and asking us, what is the sideway going to be like? How do I tell them what it should be? We had worked on a lot of that, but we didn't get all of the approvals from the council. We also had the opinion from the attorney sent back with the two Florida statutes, and I think that should be being worked over somewhat, because as both attorneys from the landowners and from the water control district and the council are working on this has got to be coming up.
Did we get a second on 20?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, did you vote?
it's unanimous.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unanimously agreed.
The vote is anonymous.
She said it wasn't necessary, so I just kind of jumped ahead.
Well, your question is again, worried about timing or what?
No, I'm just wondering when should we, you know, and some of these things are in your court where, you know, it's figuring out a good time. Right now, a lot of things are happening between the Waterford district and the town, and sometimes you want to get in the middle of it, and sometimes you don't. So, you know, it's picking some smart timing as well, and other things, they need to be finished. You know, we haven't looked at them in a while.
Well, my recollection, other members can help me, I thought you did set it all. I thought we had gone through all the motions, you'd taken the motions, everything is set in place.
We
I
even
think-
recommended to the
Yeah.
council
Yeah.
that they move ahead on replacing signs, and nothing's been done.
So, but what is left for us to
Legal
do?
language, you need to know what needs to be on the signs is one of them. All of the signage replacement that's disappeared on the roads, whether it's that, you know, the canal side has the right of way, or whether it's that the horses are still on the trails, whether it is no cut through traffic, or whatever it is that we need to, you know, all this stuff has to
We have really nice
Forward
speed
action.
bump signs.
go.
In most
We have a
places-
signage
in most
program,
places.
we have been replacing signage as we are aware of it being done. Is there something that, you know,
Horses on
do you have vocations that I need to replace signage on? If I get them, we'll do it.
I think we talked to some, you got part of it and Miles got the other side of
Miles
it.
never did it.
Oh, Miles never did it,
Yeah.
okay.
It's a long time ago.
Yes, we were missing.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, what are some of the MREC is a big deal. It's going to take some time to work through, and maybe there's the road part, the horse part, but some of the other things have to start moving along. And there may be, you know, you may need to be sensitive to timing of what's. Part of the problem for us was all the development was happening, you know, we were making all our suggestions, and the council was so focused on the developments in college that, you know, it wasn't any emotional room in there for anything more.
Okay, but let me be clear. What are you saying I need to do as far as starting to move along? What specifically? Because
Our problem is, apparently, we made recommendations to the council when actually we should have given the information just to you to carry it through, like replacement of signs.
Okay, well, signs,
Obviously.
routinely, we have a program, we will replace signs that are missing. So, I mean, that's not an issue, but what else am I,
This
you made
sign-
some, like, I'm supposed to be doing some kind of action program, so what am I supposed to be doing is I want to know, obviously, if I'm,
Well, the signs, for example, that we, where is that old, that, what I gave you guys last time?
Carla, do you know those brown signs
Yeah.
that we were, that,
So
when we
jogging
did them,
on
they
the
were
road.
in conjunction with the concerned horseman in one of those places.
These,
Oh, yeah.
this in there
Those
has,
signs.
I know the signs.
Yeah,
has some of the things that have been approved, some of the things that haven't been approved, that there's the signage, for example, that we developed here, that might need still some of the legal,
That brings.
These are new
that
signs.
sign, well, that's,
New
this is
replacement.
the new one, right? So if you like, I'm sure I have an extra one of this, if you want this copy. Yes.
Yeah, because the old brown ones were sponsored by individual
And you and I can
groups,
sit
people,
down
or.
and pick what we want to bring up next, what's good timing on the council, what's. or-
right, because I think what you
or
have to do is,
whoever
you,
have
as a
available.
recommending agency, you have, a recommending committee, you have to get council to approve, before I can do any expenditure, if it's part of the
Yeah.
sign program that we're doing, yeah, I can do that.
But my problem is this, I don't arrange the council's agenda. I can make suggestions to you for our agenda. I cannot make suggestions really and say this is what's carrying forward, other than he has done that. He's brought in some of the council's agenda somehow, but
No, I think you could do it the same way we did it tonight, as far as your discussion on this concept. want something on, then you can let me know, and then, because I can work it on.
Because originally Tom was going to carry some of these things
Yeah.
forward, and it's just been too much water under the bridge. It needs to, some of it needs to happen, and some of it is maybe wise to let sit for a moment while they're figuring out the other things, but.
Cool, then you and I have to talk, see, because you're being so esoteric, I'm having a hard time understanding. You're saying some of it has to go, some of it doesn't, well, which
Vote on
is,
that.
which is going and which is not?
There's the easement, the extra easement that the council has already approved, past Sixth Court, you have the 30, and then you enter Jacob's property. You don't. And that was already approved by the council. You have Yogi now versus, versus Sonye. That is the opportunity now to go and talk about whether we get extra easement way ahead of that development breaking ground, because we don't know when it's going to break ground. And it could be years before it does, but we still need that easement. So that was one of the things that was already approved, and now we have an easier way of getting that through.
I think a line.
That may be
will
one
handle
that
it
we need to
comes-
discuss, we
we
can
would
talk
fail
about
to-
it.
If there are issues that have occurred that have complicated the matter, like the district going ahead and taking Sixth Court North and claiming it as their road on the facility. Little things like that,
Yeah.
that start to throw monkey wrenches into it. So, I mean, obviously, yes, Steve Yowie is, he and I can work together much smoother. But, and we'll pursue some of these things. But, I'm not sure.
Sixth Court is actually in our MREC. It is mentioned in our MREC. They didn't mention the extension of it. They just called it all Sixth Court. I don't know how you would get down from B Road to where Sixth Court starts if you didn't have that part of it. It's just omitted in the MREC. It is not something that we can replace. We need it. We have to figure out a way. How sensitive we are to all the other issues that are going on and what the right timing is. We can talk about that and figure that out. But I don't know what we do without it. I don't know how all we have is the letter roads, and then what? You have strips and nothing.
So I don't think anybody is making a suggestion that you're not gonna have it.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
I mean, are you worried about losing it? Is that what you're concerned?
Not losing it, but not getting it.
Not getting it, and not getting it in time to actually make a comprehensive and cohesive trail. You want to see horses crossing.
I think the trail though is gonna be part and parcel of the whole, which we're gonna be getting a survey of, because that is a question mark as to where the easement is and where the right of way is, because the district has said, look, from everything that we can determine, for example, where the road bed is, we only have the 75 feet, and it's on private property, and that's on the other side. Thank you, Keith.
Well, right now, 6 So you put horses on it the way you always put horses on. And hoping it stays dirty. Only collecting erosion. When you get to that part that I was talking about, you have the 30 feet and then suddenly you have easement that is mostly in the water or on the slope into the water. That is the part that I'm talking about is important to resolve sooner rather than later, especially as we're still having negotiations with the Jacobs property.
Well, my understanding from talking to the town planner is we are going to be getting that property by virtue, I mean, they have promised that. That is going to be a condition of
West
their
of C,
development.
between C and D?
It is it's exactly C and B south of collecting canal. That piece is very, very important.
Right.
And we don't want to be dependent on a developer to decide, I'm going to sit on this for 5 years or 3 years.
Well, I don't know how the developer is going to be able to do that.
No, I
That
know.
is going to be a condition that's going to be
Yeah.
part of the PUD approval.
I'm not worried about the developers, please, I'm worried about the nursery.
Well, the nursery may or may not have the land. I remember Tom thinking there was the land there by the nursery, probably not. early if there's a piece that's shaky.
I mean, because your board met with the Sol's board, you gave them recommendations.
Right, and I did let their attorney know that you were asked from the council to speak to him, and speak to the water control district about, again, it's the water control district that needs to get that.
But I mean, I'm confident that we're gonna have that, it's not, you know, they've agreed to give us the 300 feet as opposed to the college, for example.
So the idea is to go and get it.
What is the next item?
Are we in
No.
administrative update?
I don't know,
Or
did
we're
we
just
kind
kind
of,
of
did we
pulling
kind
stuff
of,
out of there?
did we kind of maneuver into that? I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Um,
The only thing I have as far as administrative update is, last night there was a workshop with the town council and with, well, the district had some members, but we only were able to get 2 of them that will come to the meeting along with the director. And we had developers there, so there were issues about roadways as it relates to the district, being able to transfer the roadways to the town. There was a discussion on the bill, 2 bills. Your liaison did a very nice job of making sure that your interests were covered. The second bill is going to try to make sure it's going edge to edge, which I think is going to be very beneficial. There was discussion relative to the B road improvements, both from the standpoint of the area that is coincident with both developments, and then the area going north of Cajun. Obviously, the right-of-way issues have to be worked out. The developers are looking at least providing a fair escrow amount to the town, so the town district, so that whenever we get that done, we will have the resources to do the OGM, whatever that is, and that'll be happening as quickly as everyone thought. So there was a lot of ground covered on that, and trails were discussed to some extent, not a lot.
Not a lot was discussed, not a lot was decided on the bridge,
That's correct.
except my decision,
That is correct.
close the bridge.
Yeah, well, they didn't get a time to do it.
Oh, yeah, we did. They saw me make the motion, yeah.
When is the right timing to bring up, when are they coming from this to make sure that they are fulfilling the recommendations?
Developers?
Yeah, from this committee.
Both developers will be seeking their PUD approval on November 5th. That's going to be a happening. Yeah, so your this proposal you talked about tonight may not be discussed.
If I slip you 35 cents, we put ours first on the agenda.
It's new business that causes that problem. Can't find a way to, unless it goes in under your, you want to give a report, you don't get action out of it.
Can you explain the reason why they chose to have 2 separate bills versus 1 bill for the easements?
Right, well, there was concern, because there was concern that the first bill itself would not address from edge to edge, as it relates to roadway edge, which in turn is important for you guys as it relates to trails.
And it was basically the same bill that was done before.
Yes.
That legislators hearing the same thing would be very apt to say, no problem. Then if you presented something different and unknown, they will go, what was the phrase, that they would not know how to handle it, and would put it more suspect to be disapproved. By going with the 2 separates, you get the first bill taken straight away and approved because it's identical to what was previously presented. And then the second one is going to take for that 60-foot area. You'll have to help me there again. I'm a little.
But before you got there, say there was discussion and you were at a disadvantage because we did not have the language in the bill. So thought was tossed out there, as Keith has indicated, that it was going to be the same or very similar to the bill that was done, but yet it hasn't been drafted.
My concern with the separate bills, I mean, there was discussion there of what 2 people represent. I mean, it's really, really important that the bill is written well and it is explained that part of the OGM has taken forces off the dirt road. this is a way of making up for what's been taken away. And to explain that and bring the two bills together, if they're going to be separate, they at least presented together with the same amount of vigor.
I think that was kind of implied. I don't know.
Where there was, I can't
I think
remember
that they would go in
was that
tandem.
anymore.
Yeah, they were going to him, use the same
I mean, I didn't get that.
lobbyist, sponsor, whatever you want to
Mr.
term.
Rambo was the same one who
Mhm.
brought
I
forward.
mean, I didn't get the
the
impression one was
$500.
really subverted to the other.
So, I mean, I'll settle when I see it. Because I'm still a little nervous that it comes forward well enough and strong enough and explained enough that it has a chance of passing.
That's my only update I wanted to let you know about, for those of you that weren't aware of the workshop that occurred last night.
Closing comments?
Public.
Phyllis Amelia, 359 Westy Road. So are we getting signs? Are we getting new signs? That was part of the discussion tonight, that also, that we're missing some horse signs, equine signs. So did that go through tonight also, or? Okay, so that did happen.
And the only thing that I need, because I don't
That's
have
what-
a historic, I don't have a historic and where they were, so they can tell me and show me where they were previously, and then we'll.
Okay.
Those will be replaced with what we recommend is a new sign. It still has to make sure it gets checked by the lawyer.
Are you going to supply a list?
Oh, God. Have you got it in your full record? I don't know.
I might have something from you that I can dig up.
Well, if not, I will volunteer to do that. I'm just saying, you know.
Oh, okay.
But
But
you
I
don't think
have no
you
way,
have
I have to
yours?
go, I've got a whole bunch of stuff.
I mean, how hard can it be?
I'll look. But now, wait a minute, I didn't do the whole district, I didn't do the whole
I know,
town.
you only did the north,
Drive.
or you did the south, one or the other, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'll look it up. Let me,
I'm pretty sure actually you did south and then Miles was supposed to be.
who's Miles?
Yes.
Phyllis Amelia. The signs are at all the entrance ways, right?
Oh, we
On your
know,
way
but they're
through.
not.
They're missing, is
Some
what
are
you're
missing,
saying.
some
Okay.
are covered with
Right, but that's where they
vegetation.
go, right? At
Yeah, like
each
Bob Smith
entry.
did the one right out here.
Right,
Yeah.
so,
But, you know, I'm willing to do that so nobody has to search for where they're supposed to be.
maybe we could get all new signs, because some of them are kind of really worn out too.
Well, I'll
Oh,
take a
yeah.
look.
Yeah,
Well, I
That
think
would be
we're.
nice. That would be
looking to
encouraging
replace them
for the
with what
horse
we
people,
suggested,
too,
right? Not
to
the
see new
original Brown and
signs.
white.
thank you.
Yes, the idea was to, well, no, but the sign that we suggested was supposed to be signage for the trails. It's different than the brown signs that were, I think we were investigating a price and how many they're missing to know what the pricing would work out. And then replacing that wherever, but just at the entranceways to not make it too expensive.
Yeah, the
And there
cost.
was the issue of some of the horse diamonds
yeah.
being covered up and not visible anymore or having disappeared. And of course now we have much more of the roads.
Yeah, well, what I was trying to get to is, the signs that are missing or damaged or illegible anymore were originally sponsored signs. So are we going to replace them with the original sponsorship?
Nobody seemed to want to do that.
Okay. Okay, so,
Unless you find a new sponsor who's.
there is
who's
still one
willing to do
existing
it.
one out by, Wellington,
E Road and
D and,
there's one on D and there's one on E at the very end.
yeah.
But it,
I
I mean,
think Bob
that's,
Smith is still over on Collecting
that's
Canal
just-
and Folsom, but he's illegible.
that's just, I mean, that's, we can figure that out later. Committee member comments.
The phrase "water under the bridge" was used a little while ago, and our equestrian trails will occasionally need some type of crossing over the water. And as I shared last month, I have prepared for your files for future consideration a conceptual study of bridges for equestrian trails.
You saw the bridges that,
No, I didn't sleep last night.
Exactly.
And here's the committee members and manager.
Wow.
Thank you,
We
sir.
would send one to Mr. Polo. And I have, let's see, make sure everybody gets one in town, and then
Hey, that's a good
if you would pass one off to the public. These are just studies I did of the Wood Bridge at Palm Beach, Laurel Palm Beach, Pines, natural area, and consideration of a bridge culvert. And this is just a report that I did to help us understand costs, because I'd like to know what the costs are before we do something.
And you remember the pictures that I handed to the two of you that have that very same bridge in it, as well as the bridges in the natural area in Wellington, which that is a bridge that is carrying a little bit too much weight. The idea is to only let horses over and not cars. Very important point. I think the bridges are going to be very necessary on A, C, and E. C, we might get for free. A, we should have asked for, but we didn't, with the college.
I'm trying to get a whole road.
Yeah, but you got to help with Bill Crossings at Oak Hill.
And on that note, I'm going to hand this out to you. This is back then, complete Sonia, some of the trouble areas as well. That
Yeah, it was
subject
a
area.
trouble area.
That way you have, Pete was the one
How
that.
did they limit this?
I'm not the one that did this.
See, there you're.
Oh, this one?
Right.
You can get the key.
Yeah, but you have
to pay for it.
Okay. Oh, get the key?
This was something
It's
that,
a
in my meeting with
$15
Pete Sonia,
fee to
he
get the
handed
key.
me, and I think this is good timing.
Is it a deposit? Oh, you mean it's
No, it's
$15
just for the
and you
permit.
get the key? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's not a big deal though.
They're using a key, and
You know,
what time they had a number.
Yeah, what's,
Well, maybe
is
they
it a
give
key
you a
now?
code, I don't know.
Where's the lock though? Is it way down low? Cause I cannot disconnect.
No,
Once I'm off, I'm done.
It's approximately 36 inches off the ground.
Guys,
It's
that's
what?
next time. You guys,
Oh,
you guys
sorry.
can actually talk
Okay, sorry.
without the
I'm-
meeting.
I'm sorry.
So it is
What's this for?
a valuable
This is
trail
just,
still.
this was the
Yeah, oh,
area
yeah.
where some of the trouble's been pointed out, and this was already,
So-
these are the areas where you
Use
need
these
bridges,
trails.
potentially here you need a
Yeah,
bridge.
I do.
So it's just, I took the opportunity to give you something, so I'm not always handing you something out just before we discuss it, look at it.
Alright.
Okay, so the yellow is what's existing.
The yellow areas are the areas where he pointed out there are some trouble
Oh, those are
areas.
the trouble areas.
And, you know, may it be that it's grown in, or may it be that there is no connection, you need to go over collecting canal.
The circle.
Or it may need a fence because the natural area is there and it has no fence, or it's part of the trail, the natural area. Okay, good, so everybody, before you start using the hammer. All right, anybody else, comments?
Yeah, tomorrow, 10 o'clock, Island Dunes, Board of County Commissioners, be there, even if you just get up, if you can go, you can sign, you can put in comment cards opposed to, but if you turn in a card, just get up for 30 seconds and say, I'm so-and-so, live in so-and-so, this development extension is gonna impact us tremendously, ruin lifestyle. You get zero lot line out there. It's so out of place, it's ridiculous. I'm gonna be selling it on an ecological environmental basis. But I think those two properties ought to go to become a filtering marsh. I had some replies today from some other universities and governmental people. I hope they come follow up and send their emails.
Where is it?
Where is the meeting?
Sand dunes.
The Board of County Commission meetings, 301 North Island? Yeah.
Sixth floor of it.
Sixth floor, 10 a.m. time certain, we found today. But I can get there by 9:30 if you can.
I did make a call to a planner today who happened to have worked with this project some years back. apparently, one of the reasons why they received what they received was in order, they were going to be annexed by Wellington. And that was, they were afraid they have much stronger annexation laws by now. However, this is one of the leftover deals. And part of the deal was that they needed a 4-to-1 vote in order to annex it in the future or any land around it. Supposedly, this was in order to save the sugar land from annexation going out west. What I don't understand is how it protects it from just plain development or a town coming, especially with the part of New York and other communities.
Wellington didn't touch it.
The other thing was back then, the Okeechobee was supposed to be only a guarantee that they would not use that land, that would be there, and it was to protect that Thurway protection land. And supposedly there were 2 miles missing in between, but I've spoken to other people who claim that the 2 miles are there. And I can't get to the bottom of it, whether there are or not. I've made several attempts to contact their project manager.
The whole big problem with this whole thing is that the tier system, simple communities, sector plan, all of that was thrown out, not used. But then there in the sector plan was a recommendation to remove the extension of Okeechobee. And then the thing that I learned last night at Santa Maria's confab meeting on what to do tomorrow in Pimento and all this stuff, it was held over Hillary's, was we gave out, I think Patricia Curry came up with the tax roll for Highland Dunes for the last 10 or so years. When they got this improvement, they were paying taxes, about between $700,000 and $1 million a year. 2009, they got an ag exemption for timber production. They went in and planted a whole bunch of pine trees. Okay, their taxes dropped to $7,000 a year.
Yes, but
So-
they were approved for that.
No, wait a minute. Since 2009, they've been ag. That should make them start from ground zero, period. They should have, all the rest of it should have thrown out.
Well, what they're doing is they're rescinding the ag approvals that they received. They never let the LR2 go away, and I think that's their strongest argument. The question is, does that LR2 give them the full 2,000 units in commercial and da-da-da-da-da-da? So I don't know, does anybody, do you know?
There's no
Do you have-
subtraction.
Do you have any knowledge of what they're?
What I have heard, I haven't researched this, what I have heard is that the actual zoning is residential composition. I know they got the ag exemption, but, and that anytime in Palm Beach County, when you develop over more than 100 units, you have to get the PUD. So, but they're trying to make it sound like it's very perfunctory.
Yeah, they don't
Question
have
is, how
PUD yet.
perfunctory is it?
Yeah. And the other thing is that Jess and I have talked about this in the past, is that, and hopefully he'll be able to do something about it before he leaves office by term limitation, is that if you have 100 acres, and you develop 10 acres as commercial offices, park, whatever, the dwelling units that could have been built on that should be subtracted from the total, not moved. Because that's double dipping.
Well, I would agree with that if you weren't doing PUD or cluster components to PUD, that's what gets you to go.
I think we have something. So, any other comments?
In the interest of the efficiency of management of the meeting, you've done a splendid job, I must admit. I submit for your consideration that everybody sit on the floor of this meeting will be over about an hour ago.
I second that.
That's probably very
Patience. With our tiny little room, this is the third time we've had to meet in
We
here.
have little pillows,
And
take our shoes
could
off,
we
and have
see that we
stocking.
can get the other room next time?
Madam Chair,
It's
you're out of the
possible.
loop. We had the room. Actually,
Yeah.
there was
You got them?
a snafu. We had our stuff set up, we put it in there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we were given bad information. Somebody confiscated it.
That's what happened last time.
No, last time they had.
Did you call the office today to hear the new receptionist? Sounds just like Jim Clay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
I called, started talking to him, I said, you find out Mark Patrick's phone number? He goes, oh, it's Jim.
Jim.
I don't like to move out.
Do you recognize this? Part of the committee. Go away. How are you? Nice to see you.
Right now, the problem is we're able to download to our system, we can't be able to upload it, so I'm jammed with meetings now. So until I have tech come in to try to fix that.
There you go.
Last week, the town council meeting today, it takes 24 hours just to upload.
I need to listen to it and watch it, so that,
You want to do that?
If I can upload my system, see, I'm running up against jams, it's gonna be, we have to run all week.
No, we're short, we're short.
I
think we are coming now. I will be there tomorrow.
that really needed, so I can.
They're there.
Are they there?
Yeah, they're there.
White game's going.
All right, sunshine.
I'll check with you first of the week. Okay, sir.
Sunshine on my shoulder. Oh, I see.
Better served.
Yeah, you're right, though. And it's funny that you said that. I was thinking that it was supposed to come in. I just read. Yeah, everything was funny.
Having the sunshine.
I'll talk to you later. No sunshine. No sunshine now.
Sunshine, not too.
Hey, thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye, Keith.
Good night. Thank you for your time.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my job, fortunately.